Curious Lloyd.
When you consider people like Donald Trump is willingly going to ignore the mountain of scientific evidence that global warming is affecting our world, climate change deniers are almost admirable. Although, we are coming out of an ice age, which is also warming up our planet. So, you could say we're just speeding up the process of climate change. But have you ever thought on what would change if climate change got to a certain point? Well, here's 5 situations that would be ruined by climate change. Flying is going to take longer, cost more, and be more dangerous. One of the most iconic symbols of our carbon footprint is air travel. Aeroplanes leave behind a trail of smoke and filth, and airlines are finding out that where you eat is a bad idea, even when it involves airline food. According to a report in Nature Climate Change, the heating of the atmosphere caused by pollution is making winds more volatile, which in turn is slowing down and even damaging aeroplanes. Several associates at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution performed a 20-year-long study on the impact of climate change on flights between Honolulu and the west coast of the US. But on average, because of net gain in headwinds, the duration of the plane's round trip was bumped up by as much time as a minute. That may not seem like much, but if you apply that 1-minute delay to every commercial flight, that adds up to an extra billion gallons of fuel. With an increase in fuel costs comes an increase in ticket prices. Not only will flights become more and more expensive, but we'll also get less bang for our buck. Or more bang. Actually, as turbulence is going to get steadily worse every year, it is predicted that there will be more and more incidents of severe clear air turbulence, which typically comes out of the blue without any warning. But according to Dr. Paul Williams, a researcher at the University of Reading, he states that this kind of stealth turbulence can often prove fatal for smaller private planes. It's been estimated that this increase in turbulence alone is costing the US aviation industry $500 million in damages and delays each year. But in all fairness, we're not going to stop flying people to tropical destinations anytime soon, so all of these delays just mean more fuel consumption, which means more CO2 being leaked into the air and pretty much ruining it for you and pretty much everyone else. But probably not for Donald Trump with his massive Air Force One airliner. Your allergies will get worse, even if you don't have them. Allergies happen when our bodies kind of freak out, thinking harmless substances like pollen are actually parasites trying to infest us, resulting in having coughs, sneezes, and wheezes as we try to force these invaders out. The point is, allergies are horrible, and thanks to climate change, they're about to get a whole lot worse. Now you see, carbon dioxide is a key factor in photosynthesis, which turns harmful substances into organic carbon that can be processed by plants. This is the great thing about plants. They eat this and create beauty, but plenty of humans have developed an intolerance for pollen produced by plants, especially the kind that comes from grass or weeds, which is bad, because according to recent analysis, grass and weeds have shown a significant uptick in pollen production thanks to all the CO2 we're putting into the atmosphere. So have you said to yourself yet, you're not worried because you don't have any allergies? Well, question yourself again. If you're not getting the sniffles during spring now, that only means that your body is able to keep calm under the current level of pollen spread. Every bump in the amount of pollen in the air means another roll of the dice to see if your respiratory system loses its mind. But spring has already moved up by as much as 10 to 14 days compared to 20 years ago, meaning the pollen season is getting more of a head start with every year passing. Researchers predicted that by 2040, the pollen count could be double of what it is today, meaning that some people won't be able to go anywhere near freshly mowed lawn without even suffocating. But for a brief moment, scientists hope that the release of more ozone, which damages plant growth, would level out the pollen problem. But unfortunately, studies have shown that ozone barely hinders plants' absorption of CO2. But this will hit the asthmatics the hardest, as they will receive the 1-2 punch of an increase in both allergens and ozone pollution, which can trigger severe asthma symptoms. Your energy bills will rise because power plants will fall. In January 2016, a study in Nature Climate Change came out with an unexpected prediction that global warming is actually starting to affect our power plants. Out of the 24,515 hydropower plants investigated, the study warned that as much as 86% of them would start dropping output in the next few decades. The same would happen to 74% of the study's 1,472 thermoelectric plants. The reason for both calamities would be the same, or, to be more specific, the lack of water, which is surprisingly surprising, because 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water. But droughts can do a real number on hydropower plants. But meanwhile, thermoelectric plants are having a hard time cooling their reactors, thanks to both less abundant sources of water and a gradual increase in the temperature of available water. This all results in a much less cost-effective way of running a power plant, and all those losses will, of course, be passed on to us, the consumers. If you thought power companies were insufferable before, just wait until they get really thirsty. But the good news is that not all the months would have a steeper electricity bill, because during the summer, we might not even get any electricity at all. In some parts of the world, the study claims the output of hydroelectric power could be cut as much as 30% during months that are particularly hot, so such a large swing in output will undoubtedly lead out rolling blackouts. But this needn't be the disaster it could prove to be. According to the same study, many of these obstacles can be avoided by allocating funds to make power plants climate-proof. But ironically, this would mean these failing behemoths would have to start relying on more alternative energy, like wind or solar power, which is kind of a no-brainer. Our food is going to get a lot less nutritious. So here's a question for you. If climate change is making sunlight, exercise, and breathing lethal, how on earth can we stay healthy? Well, luckily, vegetables and other plants thrive on carbon dioxide, so at least we can eat healthier to keep our bodies going, right? Well, that's actually wrong. Greenhouse gases are falling all over our food and severely reducing its nutritional value. A large international team of university researchers have laid bare a pattern of carbon dioxide sucking the nutrients out of plants like a hungry vampire. In a study which replicated the carbon dioxide levels of the near future, wheat, rice and field peas were all shown to have lost a significant amount of their zinc and iron. But what's more is all three of them also had lower levels of protein, which you may recognise as one of those vital things we need. However, while protein can be obtained from several sources, these kinds of vegetables are our primary sources of zinc and iron, which boosts our immune systems and helps transport oxygen around the body. But respectively, this dire news is especially bad since a good 2 billion people are already not having these basic nutritional needs. And while it is true that plants require carbon dioxide to live, everything else needed to grow a carrot is getting messed over by greenhouse gases, which reduces the amount of fertile land and even helps spread plant diseases. Everything is probably going to sink into the ocean, and disease will be almost everywhere. So all of the points I've covered so far about all of the ways climate change will destroy our hopes and dreams, you could say it's depressing. We all sure could use a break from all this doom and gloom. Maybe go on holiday or travel around and see what the world has to offer. You know what they say, there's no time like the present. But seriously, there's no time like the present, because apparently there won't be anything nice to visit soon. But sadly, our greatest landmarks, which may disappear because of climate change, which most of them will just be slowly swallowed by the sea, including the Statue of Liberty, the Fortress of Cartagena, Easter Island, and it's not just landmarks either. The disturbing ascension of sea levels is even endangering whole cities like Alexandria, Venice, and Vancouver. National parks will take their share of the damage too. Mesa Verde National Park will probably die in fire, while Joshua Tree is experiencing a slow collapse of its ecological system. But an honourable mention goes to the Glacier National Park in Montana, which isn't in danger of disappearing, but scientists predict it will be glacier-free by 2030 and therefore be utterly pointless. But the most creative way pollution is dismantling human history is happening at Stonehenge. The soil beneath this famous enigma is slowly being eroded by flash floods and moles, who are multiplying like crazy thanks to the warmer summers. The moles are expanding their underground tunnels, which means it's only a matter of time until Stonehenge collapses into the earth. But so much of the world will be stricken by the curse of Atlantis. But at the current rate of global warming, several forests, including the Amazon, are experiencing massive tree mortality. If that rise were ever to double, it could easily trigger massive extinctions and widespread ecosystem collapse. But it's not all death and decay with global warming. Thanks to the combo of longer, warmer weather seasons and unpredictable weather patterns, certain insect populations will not only explode, but will also be blasted across the world. A few of these booming bugs are also neat little vectors of misery, carrying nastiness like West Nile virus, dengue fever, and Lyme disease. So no need to leave your house in all fairness. But soon enough, everyone will be able to catch an exotic debilitating illness whilst lounging in their garden, So fixing climate change will be tough. We've got a long road ahead of us. But just in case this all goes tits up, remember this guide to surviving climate change. Don't go outside. Don't stay indoors. Don't rely on electrical devices. Try to stay fit without nutrition or exercise. Try not to die from random dengue fever outbreak. Forget the past, abandon the future, and go and see the Statue of Liberty before it sinks into the ocean, or air travel becomes almost impossible. So in all fairness, that shouldn't be too hard.